Love this podcast? Support us by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Hit the link in the episode description to support us now. Thanks for listening and enjoy.
And just like that, Rolando and Nicole are covering Sex in the City. And just like that, I'm Nicole.
And I'm Rolando.
And this is Remakes, Reboots, and Revivals.
An original podcast
about
unoriginality.
Well, hi there, listeners. Hello, lovers. And welcome to this week's episode. Before we get into this one, which I think is going to be really, really fun, I just want to remind everyone that if you enjoy this podcast and you are an iTunes listener, please go to the Apple Podcast app and rate this podcast and leave us a little review. Things like this really do help Remakes, Reboots, and Revivals grow and get more listeners. And we do really appreciate it. And to show our appreciation, we might just read it on the air. So again, find us on Apple Podcasts, give us a rating and a review, and we will be eternally grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, and you know what? Actually, even if you're not an Apple podcast listener, you know what? I think Shazam also takes reviews. So reviews anywhere. We'll appreciate it because we'll get emails saying, yo, you were just reviewed. And that would be lovely.
It would be lovely, yeah.
Even preferably Apple Podcasts.
Yeah. I know you can rate us on Spotify, but you can't review us. And we want to actually hear what you guys have to say. So that's why we prefer the places where you could review us.
Oh, you know what? I said Shazam like a dummy. I don't even think Shazam exists anymore.
Shazam is that app that when you can't think of the name of a song, you press it and it tells you that, right?
Yeah, sorry. I'm like an Apple slut. I use Apple Podcasts and Apple Music. So
look at that. Wait, so what did you mean? Did you mean like Pandora?
I meant Spotify.
You meant Spotify.
Is the one that has also reviews. Also, guys, if you didn't know, you actually can listen to our podcast directly on Facebook. So if you're on our Facebook page, you can check out our podcast right there. All our episodes are available there as well.
Yeah, you were saying Spotify. I'm an avid Spotify user, which is crazy because all of my products are Apple, but I do not listen to iTunes. I actually can't stand iTunes.
It's not iTunes anymore. It's Apple Music.
See, that's how out of it I am.
But no, I agree with you. I've been considering switching. My problem is, so the reason I used Apple Music is only because I had like a year for free. And then after that, I just got used to it.
You got used to it, yeah.
I'm too lazy to change the subscription and then figure out what songs did I used to download, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I like Spotify because I have a family plan. So under one plan, I pay for myself, I pay for my mother, I pay for my sister, and I pay for my brother-in-law. And I have one more account open. So
I'm not that generous.
Well, I mean, if you share memberships with other people, you might as well pay for their music. You know what I mean?
I guess. But I mean, it's so funny, right? Because my one qualm is that Apple Music doesn't do their end of the year, most listened to stuff.
Spotify does.
And Spotify does. And it makes me so jealous that you guys get to share. I don't know what. It's not like I listen to music that much. That's the other fucked up thing, right? I'm paying all this money for a service I don't really use that much.
That's true. I am constantly listening. So I think that's why Spotify I definitely I use. By the way, we usually talk about the things that we've been watching or reading or listening to. But I think, pretty much me establishing I'm Spotify and Rolando's Apple Music covers that basis.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, how much does Apple Music cost per month?
I think it's $9.99.
Okay, that's not bad. But you're just paying for yourself?
I think I get to have 2 people.
2 people. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
So it's I think, I'm not 100% sure, but it's $9.99 that I pay for.
I see. I pay $15, $15 or $16 a month, but I pay for 6 people. So.
Well, I'd rather pay Apple Music than Tidal. Does that even still exist? Do you remember Tidal?
I have no idea what that is.
That was the streaming service that was brought to you by I think Kanye, Jay-Z, Beyonce, all those music, Taylor Swift.
Really? Wow.
It's supposed to be higher quality music, but but they charge you I think $20.
I am so out of it. I'm out of the loop, guys. What a surprise. But, speaking of paying for my family or just family in general, I'm really excited because, as we said in the cold open, we're covering Sex in the City. And I kind of felt like we really needed the perspective, of like a cis heterosexual on this show, preferably a woman.
I guess. I mean, I was just thinking any woman who watches, it doesn't have to be cis heterosexual. I was just thinking anyone who was a fan of this show growing up. I was actually considering bringing my friend Amanda on, but like, I don't know what kind of a following she has. Plus, and she's listening probably. Let's be real. God only knows what'll come out of her mouth. So
this is true. Well, so that's the thing. Like sometimes we cover things where we're just like not the target audience, and sometimes we think about it, it's like, oh man, I wish we had someone who was kind of the target audience.
I don't know. Speak for yourself. I feel like a gay young man wasn't the target audience for Sex and the City. I don't know. I mean, I know it's predominantly women,
you feel like
but like
he might like that was a target audience.
I think
that wasn't?
Gay men were like very much a target audience for Sex and the City.
My fucking headphones just went out and I didn't hear anything you said.
I said that I think gay men were, in fact, a target of the Sex and the City.
Yeah, probably white gay men were.
Yeah, probably. I mean, affluent gay men,
Well, this is, an interesting question. Who is Sex and the City? Who was Sex and the City made for? Who is And Just Like That made for? What is the relationship between the two shows too? And of course the movie. I just also thought it would just be fun to get a diehard fan who's been watching ever since the show kind of was a smash in the early 2000s. And a reason to bring my sister back. So on our show today is going to be my sister.
Yay.
With us today, of course, is our wonderful, beautiful yellow shirt producer, Eddie Z.
Hello, everyone. What's up, Eddie?
And our special guest, my sister, Tina of Tina Elizabeth Photography. Hi, Tina.
Hello.
Hi, Tina.
Thanks for having me.
That's right. Although this is our first time meeting you here on the podcast, this is now our audience's first time with you on the podcast.
Yes, I covered for Rolando.
I don't even. What was the occasion? Was it my bachelor party?
I think you were off partying in New Orleans, and we chatted about Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. It was kind of like a special episode. So, because we're Harry Potter nuts. So, as evidenced in my 2 Harry Potter episodes for this podcast. Other things that my sister is a big fan of is Friends, just like Rolando.
Yeah.
And we all agree that, Lisa Kudrow is the most attractive member of Friends now because the rest of them just look terrible.
Yes.
He has aged the best.
Although Courtney Cox didn't look terrible in Scream.
Yeah, it's like she kind of reversed work. We were talking about that last week. Yeah.
I think she just had, I think the fillers were just in too recently for the reunion. Like, I think they all did it like the week of, and you're supposed to give yourself like 3 weeks to a month.
Yeah, they all did it the
all
last
like
second.
level out.
Yeah. But yeah, Tina, would you say that Sex and the City is your favorite TV show? Is it just in your top 5?
It's definitely in my top 5. I would say my favorite now is The Office, which I did not watch when it was on TV, like live. I watched it like 2 years ago on Netflix, and I'm obsessed with it.
Oh, got it.
The Office, Friends, Sex and the City, Bob's Burgers, like my top 4.
Yeah, Bob's Burgers is another good one. Oh, you're a comedy girl. I love. I'm all about sitcoms.
Oh, yeah. Sitcoms are fun.
Yeah, sitcoms are great.
Yeah.
I'm really getting into Succession on HBO, but just comedies is where it's at for me. I need something lighthearted.
And you like comedies about families, whether it's found families or real families and stuff. So
Work families,
yeah. So look at that. You like a touch of the sentimental at its core.
Yes, for sure.
Would you say that when Sex and the City was still, in syndication on HBO, was it your favorite show then? Yeah,
so I started watching Sex and the City when it was still live on TV, and it was airing season 4. So I was way too young to be watching it. I think I was maybe 16 or 17 when I was watching Sex and the City.
Wow.
But I loved it, not because of the sex or even the relationships, but more the friendships, that Carrie had with the three girls. I loved the fashion. I loved just her life. Like, you know, I was a young girl in high school watching this woman living on her own in New York City and just thought she was the coolest character.
Yeah. Let's actually talk about like when we first came across the show, you know, before we get into the history. Like Rolando, Eddie, what was your guys' first experience with Sex and the City?
Eddie?
I was never really into this show at all.
Okay.
Yeah, not at all. I did see a couple of episodes, but never really kind of committed to it.
Yeah, so I actually started watching. I didn't even start watching the show. I really became aware of it during when it was syndicated on the Channel 11. Not even like HBO, right? It was like censored and like just being syndicated on like regular old broadcast television. Yeah. And I think I may have caught like a few episodes and I was like, oh yeah, this is funny, but I didn't realize how watered down it was until they announced And Just Like That and released like the remastered versions on HBO Max. And I kind of figured, well, we're going to be covering this on the podcast, so let me just start watching this now. And I got through a good chunk of the first season.
Oh,
it's a good show. It was good.
Okay.
But yeah, outside of that, I mean, really outside of that, all I really knew it more so was from like jokes in other sitcoms, like 30 Rock would reference it. I think just random shows, just like, oh, you're such a Samantha, that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
I knew enough to know what all those things meant. And how to use memes very appropriately.
Yes.
From that.
Yeah, the show was such a success when it came out that even like if you had HBO, right, which I think around this time the show debuted in 1998. Correct me if I'm wrong. The slogan was if it's not TV, it's HBO or something. It was like TV enhanced, you know? And like having HBO in the late 90s, early 2000s was a big thing. It was kind of like where the best quality was. You know, ever since we've been in this new kind of golden age of television, everyone's putting on excellent productions of television shows. But for a while, it was kind of just HBO that was like, hey, we're going to make our TV shows more cinematic than TV's been before. And a lot of people and dirtier. Oh yeah. I mean, if you watch like an episode of a HBO show that doesn't have like at least 3 sex scenes in it, that's like tame, you know, like that's what they do. But it's interesting because a lot of people associate HBO and that Renaissance beginning with The Sopranos, but The Sopranos didn't come out until 2000. I would say that the show that really put HBO on the map would be Sex and the City, which started in 1998. I don't think it became a sensation until around the time The Sopranos also came out, and then 6 Feet Under came out in 2001. I think it took a while. Like the first 2 seasons of Sex and the City are different than what the show ended up becoming, and that it really kind of found its voice later on in the seasons. But I think from the moment it kind of happened where it's like, oh, hey, here's these 4 single women in their 30s, which also 1998, you weren't seeing a lot of single women who were sexually as liberated as they were in their 30s, living so freely and not shamelessly. And I think that a lot of women gravitated towards this show because of how unapologetic it was. And that kind of representation of women was just, it's kind of like we underplay what Mary Tyler Moore was for her time period, you know, like in a lot of ways, that's what Sex and the City was, you know. And it's a shame because now I think a lot of people are, even back then, you know, a lot of people just kind of like dismiss the show as just like women being sluts. And it's more than that.
It's so much more than that.
It is more than that. I mean, keep in mind, I think the show was super aspirational. Right? Was that a word that you could use to describe the show for a lot of young ladies watching the show? Yeah, like
I would say so.
You know, all these women, they had diverse careers and they were like at the top of the game and they were living like these fabulous lives in New York. That is, I mean, what an appeal, right? I think that's why Entourage succeeded so much with like the male population, right? Because you wanted to live that kind of cool, sexy Hollywood life and just bang all these models. Yeah. Well, this, you know, with Sex and the City walked so Entourage could run, you know? And Entourage nowhere near as close to the legacy that I think Sex and the City has overall, though. Like, I think Sex and the City's impact
I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you say to someone, "Oh, you're such a Samantha," they instantly know who you're talking about or what you're referencing. Nobody goes around saying, "Oh, you're such a turtle." Like, just nobody
Right.
says that.
You can say it to a certain group of people and they'll understand, but like it's a small group of people compared to Sex and the City.
Yeah.
Sex and the City has wide appeal.
It's pretty ubiquitous, I think. At least its fame is, like even if you've never seen an episode, you got the gist of it. Because also the plot of the show is pretty simple. This show was created also by Darren Star. Did we know what else Darren Star has done? I did not know that he was as prolific as he was.
Oh, wait, actually, wait, hang on.
Wait, if you have to look it up, then you don't know off the top of your head.
There was a big one. It's like a big TV show.
There's a couple of big ones, actually.
Melrose Place.
And,
without looking at Melrose Place. I love
Place.
Melrose Place, and I was way too young for that one.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
but Beverly Hills 90210. And then he did Melrose Place.
Yeah. I knew that they were connected. 90210. That's another one that I was watching way too young for my my age.
So good.
Seriously.
I mean, audiences know this. Like, I was just telling my barber today, because he recommended Euphoria, and I was telling him how like I want to start watching Euphoria because I love teen dramas, and now you're giving me an HBO teen drama. You guys don't understand. That was my dream to write in college. Like, I wrote spent a whole semester writing a pilot for like how would HBO do a teen drama, and it had sex and drugs, and guess what? That's what Euphoria is.
Oh my
Because mine took
God.
place in college. That's the only
Oh
difference.
man, did you copyright it?
No,
That's a
I
shame.
didn't.
Then
Because sex and drugs in high school?
Oh my gosh.
Good idea. Maybe you want to throw some half angels in there, or
That's a different. That was when I was trying to rip off Twilight.
he also did Younger too.
he did Younger, yes, and his most recent success has been Emily in Paris, which I don't watch, but
Which is a
I mean,
huge success.
it's a very big success.
Yeah.
So that's his career. But
he
yeah,
has I love Younger.
I've never seen actually many of the other shows.
Younger is really good.
Really good.
Like Darren Star hasn't lost it.
I like Sutton Foster, so I'll take your word on it.
She's really good in this.
She
great,
is very,
yeah.
very good at it. Yeah.
She was the reason I started watching it.
And I stayed for Hilary Duff.
And I stayed for Hilary Duff. I stayed for Hilary. So yeah.
There you go. Came for Sutton Foster, stayed for Hilary Duff. But Darren Star just loves making a show about women and really powerful women, unapologetic, living their best lives. And let's give it to him for that. That's
And you thought
really
he was
cool.
straight.
I actually did think he was. I mean, I actually would have enjoyed it more if he was straight, but I guess whatever, he was gay.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, obviously Sex and the City is based on a novel by Candace Bushnell. And Candace Bushnell was a columnist who wrote for, I think, The New Yorker.
What did she write? Dear Abby?
No, I think she just wrote a column about her lifestyle and her friend's lifestyle. It's pretty much what Sex and the City is Candace Bushnell. Like Candace Bushnell's alter ego is Carrie Bradshaw, CB, very thinly veiled for herself. And I think it was because she didn't want to write kind of like these memoir pieces, and she didn't want to use her own name, so she just created Carrie Bradshaw, even though it was like, it's like if I called myself like Nat Peretti. Like, obviously it's me, So, and the same thing that happens in the series is that Candace Bushnell's column got optioned for a book, and it turned into a book, and then she became a book writer, and she wrote other subsequent books. So,
the 90s, what a simpler time.
what a simple, right? What a time to talk about
you just
sex.
write a column, and you write a column, then you get a book deal. Now you have to have like 1 million Twitter followers or whatever to get even considered for a book deal.
Crazy. And we were alive for that time. It's not even that long ago. We were.
Yeah.
But anyway, so obviously they optioned it. They turned it into an HBO show. And apparently, Sarah Jessica Parker, who Darren Star had in mind when he was creating the pilot, was not into it. And she thought that it was going to be a failure. She was so certain that the show was going to suck that she was like, I'll do 3 HBO movies for free if you just let me get the fuck out of this show. And they were like, no, sorry, you're shit out of luck. And then she kind of voiced all of the things that she felt was wrong with it. And apparently, the story goes, Darren Star actually kind of like listened to them. They like put it into the show. And then she said the rest was kind of history. She just stuck it out and it became what it became.
Right, which
And
is
thank
also
God
part of the
she
reason.
didn't
Well, that's part of the reason why Kim Cattrall refuses to come back, though.
Okay, so we're gonna get to that in a second.
That lore of Sarah Jessica Parker is part of the reason why a part of that lore of the feud between Kim Cattrall and Sarah Jessica Parker.
Well, it's so interesting because she was so afraid that it was going to ruin her career, and in a lot of ways, it's actually made her career, but it's also typecasted her, right? I feel like now nobody can look at Sarah Jessica Parker and say anything but Carrie Bradshaw.
Really?
What else has she done that has been as prolific as her role in Carrie Bradshaw since Sex and the City? Not before.
The Divorce.
Yeah.
The
I would
Divorce.
say
The Divorce on HBO. I actually think that show.
That show's fantastic.
Yeah, she was great. I mean, that's just also a good show. But The Divorce, yeah.
Okay. All right.
No?
That would be it.
That would be it. One thing. Well, but that's also why she keeps coming back. She sounds fucking Let's Have a Kiki. She's hanging out with like 17-year-olds singing Let's Have a Kiki in Glee.
I think they were 18. Weird. They were already in college, right? That's why they were in the city.
They were legal. Okay.
That alone should have barred her from being back on TV ever again, to be quite honest.
Anyone involved with those last couple of seasons of Glee. I mean, well, no, it wasn't that terrible. I'm being kind of harsh, but
that sequence was pretty bad.
Well,
that was so fun.
Oh my God, no.
So fun to
what a travesty to that song. That song is so good, and I feel like they just butchered it.
So Sex and the City is as simple as it gets. It's 4 friends living in New York in their 30s.
Miranda, I think, was already in her late 30s. Not Miranda, I'm sorry. Samantha.
Carrie. Samantha
was always older.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. Okay. These 4 characters, 4 best friends. So obviously there's Carrie Bradshaw, played by Sarah Jessica Parker. She is the main character. She's the writer that all of these, like every episode is one of her columns, right? That's brought to life, So you have her narration describing it and her talking about all of her friends' lifestyles. And Carrie, I would say, as a character is, she's awkward, she's impulsive, but she's also very artistic. She really cares about fashion. She's kind of shallow, obsessive. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's absolutely super flawed, which is really shown in the way that they chose to open the show, where she's like walking down New York and everything's all cool, but then she gets all this water hit on her after a bus with her body, a picture of her like passes her by, and it's like really awkward, and like perfectly sets up her and her role in the show is that she's constantly kind of making a fool out of herself.
Which I have a question. Was that ever a thing? Like, were there really ads like that for newspaper columns?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That was a thing?
You know what? It would.
For newspaper columns?
I don't know for newspaper columns.
I mean,
I know, like, for newscasters.
Yeah, newscasters.
Yeah.
But there's a column. Yeah. She was writing a column, and there's a picture of her in her lingerie on the bus. Like, that's just not realistic.
I've seen movie things, and then I've seen like hospital ads on buses, but not like sex columnists. Yeah. But that's like, damn, she's got a fucking good publicist. So. But
I do love that intro. That intro is
Jones,
super iconic because of that tutu that she's wearing.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. That's right. She's wearing a tutu.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought of something. You guys ever? Never mind. I'm not even gonna bring it up. Okay. The other 3 roles are Charlotte York, played by Kristen Davis, and I would say Charlotte. How somebody else described Charlotte?
She's like the conservative. She's like the good girl, right?
She's like the wasp of the
there
group.
We go.
She's a self-proclaimed wasp too, but very Upper East Side. She comes from Connecticut, upper class, like just a little
uptight.
Yeah, uptight.
Yeah, definitely the wasp.
But she's also I've always said she's like second to Samantha, the sluttiest girl in the show.
Ooh.
If you watch, she sleeps with a lot of men before she finally meets her husband.
Yeah. So she's kind of judgy and she's kind of uptight, but she's also like the one out there who, is
promiscuous.
Conditioned, but can't take it because she's pretty judgy, but there could be a lot of judgment passed on that.
I mean, I do remember in the first season there was an episode where like her boyfriend wanted to try anal, and she was just like, "Oh my God, dear me, no." She was so uptight about it, while all the other girls were just like, "Oh, it's just anal."
Yeah.
Specifically Samantha.
And then there's Samantha, of course. Samantha's I guess, the oldest of the group.
Yes.
And she's definitely, I think, the most financially successful, the most sexually liberated, and the most confident. And just, she's a really, just liberated woman. There's not really that much to say.
She's a high-powered publicist, right?
Yes.
She has her own publicity firm, Samantha Jones Publicity, I think is what it's called, right?
I think so.
Something like that. And she's great. I mean, everyone knows Sarah Jessica Parker, but let's be very real. Samantha is who everyone really remembers on that show. I will say.
Yeah, she was the standout character she's played by Kim Cattrall, and Kim Cattrall definitely played her very well. Another one who kind of also set herself up for never being able to be taken as anything but Samantha Jones after that. You know, she was so prolific in the role. I know she won an Emmy. I don't know if all 4 of them have, but I know that Samantha has for her role. I mean, Kim Cattrall. See, they're interchangeable.
Right. Well, yeah, but I think because Kim Cattrall was probably the bigger name when the show came out, right?
I think
Sex and...
Sarah Jessica Parker?
Besides Sarah Jessica Parker, I think Kim Cattrall might have had the biggest career.
Right.
Out of the other girls.
I would, and I think she was, I mean... Kim Cattrall was so great. But I think unfortunately for her though, she kind of fell victim to Hollywood's kind of standards of like beauty, right? She wasn't, let's be real, she was already, by the time she was on Sex and the City, an older woman. So she had to lean into that part. The reason she got typecast into that is because Hollywood doesn't give a lot of roles back then, even now, but to women after 40, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So she kind of had to lean into that sexy cougar to have a career, and I think
no, for sure. I mean, even there's this great movie from 1950 called All About Eve, where Bette Davis is lamenting the fact that she's turning 40 because she knows her career is over, and it's like shit hasn't changed, you know. So
we wanted it to, but I think, and just like that taught us, has he?
Well, before we get there, we still gotta mention Miranda, the last of the 4, played by Cynthia Nixon, and Miranda is the most sarcastic, cynical one of the bunch, I would say.
Yeah, she's
a lawyer.
She is a lawyer.
She's feisty in her own way.
Yeah,
very opinionated.
Yeah, she's kind of no nonsense.
Yeah, no bullshit. Don't beat around the bush. You know, this is how it is. She's definitely a Capricorn.
When she wants sex, she knows what she wants, and she doesn't want to like lollygag. It's just like, no, we're doing this, we're doing it this way for this long. Get out.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so, she loves her technology. I just want to point that out.
She does. Yes, this is true. Yes. But in a weird, so out of all 4 of them, based on the Sex and the City original show, who do you think is the most close-minded character?
Charlotte.
You think it would be Charlotte? Because she's just so set in her ways?
Yeah. I mean, technically, I guess you could also make that argument, though, for Carrie.
Yeah, I was going to say either one of them. But I think I would say Charlotte first.
It's so interesting because I feel like the only one in the show who wasn't was Samantha, right? Samantha was always the more progressive thinker. I think the other 3 girls always had moments where it was kind of like they... as humanly as possible, you know, it was kind of like they were a little behind in things, or they were more closed-minded, right? Over the 6 seasons that show went on, many different situations happened to the girls, right? Carrie in season 2 dates a man who is bisexual, and these girls are not understanding about bisexuality in that episode because it's 1999, right?
Yeah,
they make... And that's the thing. Bisexuality is still not understood, right? People don't take it seriously. I remember one of them said like, oh, you know, bisexualityville, isn't that on the way over to Ricky Martin town? You know, like pretty much saying you're not bisexual, you're gay, right? Dismissing that as an actually valid sexual orientation.
And that's before he was even out.
Yeah, that was before he was out, and everyone was just like guessing. So they don't believe in bisexuality. It's like you're either straight or you're gay.
Yeah.
Which, you know, and a lot of people still think that. A lot of people choose not to accept bisexuality as real.
I hate to say this. Oh, well, I'm going to be very upfront. I do understand there are bisexual people, but even me as a gay man, like sometimes do scoff at the idea. And I know I shouldn't, right? I'm very well aware of this. But I'm just saying, it's just like sometimes when you meet a guy who's saying it's just like, I am bi, you're just like, sure. You're just too afraid to admit that you're gay. But no,
you're
but
part
I
of the
understand completely. I'm fully aware of this. No, I get it. It's a fucked up thing, but I think society kind of conditions you to believe that. Like, you know what I mean? And I constantly have to correct myself on that.
Well, of course, right? And that's the time that we're living in right now is we're all trying to undo the things that we've been taught by society, right? And a lot of people are kind of fighting it, but it's actually a really good thing that we should undo these things. We should learn new terms, and we should respect other people's, preferences and whatnot. So blah, blah, blah. That's just one thing, right? Samantha, and I think around season 4, starts to be taken in by a woman and begins a sexual relationship with a woman. And of course, everyone has feelings about that. And of course, the big question, so are you gay now? What are you? And I think even Samantha proclaims that she's a lesbian, that like she didn't even understand her own bisexuality. And that's just also a part of the time. There's other situations though that happen to these girls. You brought up the anal thing, how like Charlotte wasn't even open to, that type of sex. What are some other key moments that happen to the girls? The affairs are had, and some of the characters are more understanding about the fact that sometimes people get caught in a situation and make mistakes. But is it a safe space as a friend for me to like allow you to actually be open about the mistakes you're making? Or, am I going to judge you for them?
Are you talking about Carrie sleeping with Big when he's married? Because Carrie was 100% in the wrong on that.
Yes, right. But is it your job as a friend to judge that friend, or
yes, I had to warn them of the hellfire they're like subjecting their souls to?
But at the same time, like you can tell them, hey, you shouldn't do that without being a judgmental asshole and actually being there for your friend.
I'm supposed to be like, okay, yeah, you're ruining this married
You're
couple.
such a Charlotte.
It's funny. I always believe myself to be like a Samantha, but I actually think I don't think I'm actually a Charlotte. I actually think I'm more of a Miranda, to be quite honest.
I think most people are Miranda.
Yeah, I would agree. Where
He's
I think Miranda
100% the most relatable character.
Interesting. I have no idea who I am. I think you guys have to tell me which one I am.
Miranda.
Miranda? Why? Because I'm cynical?
I mean, aren't we
and
all?
opinionated?
Yeah.
I've always kind of, not that I'm the main character of my own life, even though I like totally am, but I've always felt more like Carrie just because of the awkward mess she could be. And I also feel like an awkward mess most of the time.
I think that so here's the thing. Well, Tina, when was the last time you rewatched the show?
2 years ago.
Okay, so fairly recently.
Yes.
So
Yes.
rewatching the show, has your perception of Carrie changed since when you first watched it to now?
Now I see it and I do think, all right, you're a little bit dramatic and obsessive, like I said before. But I do still love the character because she's not perfect. And I think before Sex and the City, they always kind of showed women on TV as perfect. And, women don't sleep around with men. Women don't chain smoke. And women, don't sleep with their ex-boyfriends and shit. And it just kind of broke all those rules about women on TV. So Carrie, to me, was really important because she did all of those things. She was not perfect. She was an obsessive girl. And, girls are like that. Girls can be very obsessive when it comes to their relationships and constantly checking emails and leaving their houses and going to the guy's house to see, hey, I want to know if you're home. And, everything that Carrie did is totally relatable. Women have done that. I know women that have done that and have acted like that. I've acted like that. So I still think before and just like that, she was a fantastic character.
Okay. Yeah.
And just like that has changed a lot of my views.
Well, the reason I was asking was because I happen to have heard some women who were fans of the show who realized that kind of Carrie was, as they grow, it's just like, oh, Carrie was kind of the brat. Like, we should have been all striving to be Miranda, not Carrie.
There have been so many times in that show where Carrie will call them all complaining and bitching about whatever's going on in her lives. And they're all like, I think there's one episode where she calls each of them one by one, and they're all like, Carrie, I don't have time for this shit. Call her. Carrie, I don't have time for this. Like, none of them can take her tiny little issues. Because Miranda's baby won't stop crying. Like, she's actually dealing with a real issue. And Carrie's obsessed about her ex-boyfriend and what he's doing. And it has nothing, it's a fake problem,
Yeah. No, I mean, you just brought up something that my husband, Eddie, here just said to me that was offensive. And he called me, he's like, oh, yeah, you're like a Carrie, basically. And I'm just like, oh, what? Like, here I am striving to be a Samantha or a Miranda. And it turns out I may be a Carrie. Like,
I think you should take that as a compliment, because the thing about Carrie is that she's the most realistic character. We all want to be Samantha, but at the end of the day, being a Samantha isn't it's not that attainable, but also like she's kind of unrealistic in she's not that flawed. Carrie is flawed, and human beings are flawed, right? And I think that, we see anti-heroes in movies, and we see it so often in men, but then we get like an imperfect woman, and it's like everyone judges her. It's like, no, that's actually why I really love Carrie, is because, wow, I can relate, and that is the most fucking humanistic thing I've ever fucking seen. Like, yeah, I've done that where I've called a bunch of my friends and had the same fucking conversation for 3 hours in a row. Or I've been obsessive. I've embarrassed the shit out of myself. And I can see that reflected through this girl. Like, I actually really love that. And that's the thing, like, you're Carrie, well, you're a real fucking person, Rolando. You make mistakes, you have flaws. That's a great thing, actually. Yeah. And that's why I'm also like, I feel like a Carrie, is because I am, like I said, an imperfect mess, and that's what she is, and I love that about her.
I think he was calling me that because I could be very self-centered. What were your exact words, babe?
What?
When you said, I'm like, oh yeah, you're like Carrie.
I was talking about the shoes. You have so many shoes. Throw away a pair, please. Just please. They're everywhere.
There you go. Look at that. But I will say that I think also watching this show and then all subsequent versions of it is that I also just really like Sarah Jessica Parker. I like her as an actress. I like her vibe. And I think I also like Carrie because of the way she plays her. I swear, I don't know her birthday, but I can guarantee you that Sarah Jessica Parker is some sort of fire sign, because I can just tell from her acting that I would vibe with her.
I feel like she is a Capricorn, isn't she?
No, she's definitely a fire sign. Sarah Jessica Parker, there's no way she's an earth sign.
Let me see.
March 25th.
Right, she's an Aries. Look at that. Okay. She's a fire sign. I knew it. I fucking knew it.
With that fact ASAP.
Look at that.
How did you know her birthday so quickly?
It's simple Google search.
I keep all these tabs open, so you guys, when you guys ask ridiculous questions like this, I'm ready.
I know. She's like, I'm good. All right, I'll check it.
The big thing, though, obviously, that is important to Sex and the City are some of the relationships that they had. The big one in Carrie's life is her relationship with a character called Mr. Big, who is kind of like this Wall Street hotshot womanizing asshole who does not treat her very well throughout the course of the show.
Before Trump was he was like what we thought Trump was cool, right? We thought at one point Trump was cool, and then that's what he kind of was.
Yeah. Well, when like a character like that was like hot and people actually wanted to like sleep with him, now nobody wants to sleep with a guy like that. At least I don't think so. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't want to sleep with any guy, so you guys tell me.
I mean, I saw Chris Noth, Mr. Big.
Mr. Big. Yeah.
I mean, he was okay. He's cute. Yeah. He's not like, I'm also looking at the other love of her life, which was Aiden and stuff.
Aiden,
and obviously, Aiden was the hotter one.
I guess. I thought they were both fuck ugly.
Yeah, Aiden was goofy, but he just automatically treated her better, and she just he was not worthy of him.
Yeah, she was a self-sabotager for sure.
He was such a good person.
Yeah.
And she didn't deserve that.
And that's a lot of like people
who are more person for her.
Yeah. They're usually either like Team Big or Team Aiden, but at the end of the day, like Carrie and Big kind of deserved each other. So yes. Samantha, had many, many flings, but at the end, they kind of paired her with someone who was much younger than her, with a character named Smith Jarrett. Charlotte ended up converting to Judaism to be with her husband, Harry, who was like just pretty much at least like physically not the type of guy that Charlotte saw herself being with. He was like, a bald.
That's what I always love that, because throughout the entire show, Charlotte knew exactly what she was looking for in a man. She was looking for another wasp that was just like her, a gorgeous husband. She found that with Trey McDougal, who was played by Kyle MacLachlan, and then he ended up being impotent. He could never get it up. He was not sexually fulfilling her, and they ended up getting separated and then eventually divorced. And then Harry Goldenblatt comes along, and he physically is the exact opposite of what she wants. And she spends the whole episode where they hook up just complaining about everything about him. Like there's sweat dripping from his head. He's got corny jokes. He, has food on his face, but then he ends up being the best sex of her life and treating her like the person like a wonderful person that she is.
Yeah. And he's got a great personality, and stuff. And that's the thing, like most of the relationships that they end up settling for in the show too, all these characters come to learn something. Charlotte obviously, learns that looks aren't everything and status isn't everything. And Samantha kind of learns to open up her heart. Carrie, I don't know how much she learns. Yeah, Miranda and Steve. Their dynamic isn't as like she had to learn a lot to accept him or learn a lot about herself. She becomes a mother while Charlotte is so desperate to become a mother. That's a big storyline. And she becomes a mother and like doesn't marry Steve right away, chooses to become a single mother and all this stuff. So like they throw all of these things at these women that never felt kind of forced. It all felt kind of, to me at least when I watched it, I haven't watched it in a long time, but I remember it very well. Felt pretty organic for the characters in the original run, at least for the first 5 seasons. The last season was a little hard with the painter, Alexander Petrovsky, I think is what they called him. That was that, and then her going to Paris. That was a little weird. And then it was a little weird when like Friends ended the same exact way.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell's with this Paris thing?
Yes.
It's romantic.
I guess so, but it became like a cliche. So that's how remakes, reboots, and revivals is going to end. By the way, Rolando's going to go to Paris, but then he's going to come back.
Bring him back.
And then that's kind of, how they decided to end the show. And the show ended in 2004. I think, television by 2004, that was right before shows like Breaking Bad and Mad Men came out. I think The Sopranos was still on, but it was also ending.
Yeah, it was still on.
Yeah, Entourage had just came on.
Entourage just started, yeah.
So now all these next generation shows were coming out. And it was kind of a perfect time for Sex and the City to, leave with their legacy intact and kind of like be remembered as one of the best shows around.
Oh, is that why you think it ended?
Yes, they always said that. They said they always wanted to leave the party early. I'm pretty sure those were direct quotes. They wanted to leave the party early so they didn't ruin a good thing.
Yeah, that's not what happened.
Yeah, that's not what happened at all.
Ruining a good thing.
No, that's not why. But that's not why the show ended, though.
No, oh well. No, yes. Should we now talk about the tea?
Plans. Fuckers.
Well, so here's the thing. It took them only 4 fucking years for them to be like, "Oh my god, we can't take it," and make a movie, right? And the first movie came out in 2008. It was followed by a sequel in 2011, and there were plans for a third film. Because they thought that the second film was good. For some reason. So they decided to make a third film.
I don't think the second film wasn't critically liked, but it did perform well in the box office.
When the best thing that your movie has to offer is Liza Minnelli performing Single Ladies at a gay wedding that she has no reason to attend, your movie is not good. That's the best thing about the movie. Anyway, but before we get there, Sex and the City, the first movie, was pretty decent. It wasn't anything too ludicrous. They didn't go to Dubai and have Liza Minnelli perform at a gay wedding. It was just simply Big and Carrie, wanting to get married. But then the wedding kind of becoming something that wasn't them. And then, all this drama added to the, but at the end of the day, it was kind of just an excuse to see what was going on in their lives again and to check in on the girls and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Did you like the movie, Tina?
I loved the movie. I was very nervous going into it, but when I saw it, I ended up loving it. I still love it. I still think the first movie is really good and enjoyable. And I was really happy with how the story went in the movie and ended.
Yeah.
And I would have been fine with that.
Yeah. Did it feel like organic for the characters too? Like, oh, I see this actually happening for these girls.
Yes. Yeah, I saw it. Everything about it was believable. I believed that Big would get cold feet and, not show up. I believed that Samantha would get tired of LA and would want to go back to New York. And, everything with Miranda and Steve, he had cheated on her and, she had a hard time accepting it, but then they got back together. Because there's love there. I love that. I don't remember what happened.
So Miranda was cheated on?
Yeah, Steve cheated on her. Yeah.
Really? Oh, I didn't know that.
He slept with someone. It was one time, and it was just because they hadn't done anything in a while.
Okay, well that still tracks.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think Charlotte, she had adopted a baby at the end of Sex and the City. Did she find out she was pregnant
in the first one?
There you go. She got pregnant in the first movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I remembered that. Yeah. Yeah, the first movie, and I actually remember seeing that in the theater.
You saw the Sex and the City movie in the theaters?
Yeah, well,
I saw it opening night at midnight.
Oh, nice.
Full of women, and it was one of the best movie experiences ever.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Like gasping at Carrie's closet. When Steve said, I slept with someone, everyone was like, like it was so fun.
Yeah, all those like women reacting at the same time and being like, oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah, it was great. It was definitely fun. But it worked. It wasn't anything too crazy. It wasn't like, oh, for the movie, we got to put them in an exotic location. All the things that apply to the logic of the second film did not apply to the first one. They kind of just wanted to continue their stories, and that's what worked about it. That's what didn't work about the second one. They're like, let's send the girls to Abu Dhabi or Dubai, one of them. Well, whatever.
Abu Dhabi, yeah.
Yeah, and let's have them sing karaoke, which is something that they would never fucking do.
But that was the problem with that movie is not just that. Besides the fact that they went to Abu Dhabi and did all this bullshit, they were all just suddenly caricatures of themselves. And it was like, who are these characters? Like, why? And not even like that they were so far from who they were, but they were just like nutty. Like all of them were just acting ridiculous. For no reason.
Yeah.
None of it made sense.
Well, yeah, they put like these two gay characters, Stanford and Anthony, together to get married.
Which would never happen.
Yeah, in the show, they hated each other.
Hated each other.
But then all of a sudden they found love and got married.
All of a sudden, with no explanation whatsoever.
Because I guess they both had no other options in life but each other.
You take one. It's just like how they tried to hook him up in the show. Well, I thought because you were gay and he was gay, that's it. And then
guys, come on. Rihanna has said it best. They found love in a hopeless place. All right.
Well, if you and Eddie don't work out, just take solace in the fact that one of you is going to end up with Justin, because that's how gay men work.
Oh, God.
That's literally how it worked in this show. See, you say that now, but Liza Minnelli is going to be performing at your wedding in 10 years. And that's the thing, too. Like,
10 years.
Just this outlandish wedding that they had. It's like a one that is just full scale. They had the whole gay men's chorus and fountains going off. And did I mention Liza Minnelli performing? So it's just like, what am I watching? Is this still performing? Sex in the City? They had like the whole gay male chorus there. Like the Washington, D.C. gay man chorus, apparently, where it's like 100+ men. They had sparklers and a fountain going off, shooting water, and Liza Minnelli. So it's just like, yeah, okay, you want it to be gay, but like who can afford that? And like, what kind of world are we living in that this isn't good taste in Sex in the City language? And that's like the tone that the film sets it off. So it's interesting because it was still a commercial success, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's a budget of $100 million. Brought in 300 million.
There you go, right?
I think that had to have just been initial, and then people saw it and were like, "Oh, what the fuck is this?"
Oh yeah, but still, for an initial box office grab, it succeeded.
Grab, but I think
they just look at the dollar signs. They don't look at initial reactions,
Yeah.
And it's interesting though, because at least one of the girls walked away from that movie being like, I got to make sure I never fucking do that again. And apparently the only one that had the good sense was Kim Cattrall. Of course, though, there is a little bit more to that tea. And I think I want Rolando to fill in our listeners to a little bit of this tea here.
Sarah Jessica Parker and Kim Cattrall have just been having a feud since the early days of Sex and the City. A lot of it actually stems from Sarah Jessica Parker's role as a producer. And this is ultimately what led to the demise of the initial run of the show, right? It was a pay dispute. Kim Cattrall felt that the other three actresses should be making just as much as Sarah Jessica Parker, but Sarah Jessica Parker had a producer credit, so therefore she was able to make more. So this is where so Kim Cattrall is initially the main reason that there was no seventh season, or they never proceeded. They knew that sixth season was going to be the final one because that's when her contract was up. They finally were able to bring her enough money to bring her back for a movie. And that's where we get Sex and the City. Now we know that Sex and the City 2 comes out. And yeah, she wanted nothing to do with the role of Samantha. Apparently, they were constantly throwing snipes at each other in interviews. So for example, in November 2009, I want to link this, guys, in the show notes. Elle does a great breakdown of like their feud, but I'm going to just read you some of these snippets here. But November 2009, Elle asked Parker about the rumors that Cattrall didn't get along with the other cast members, and she says, I don't think anybody wants to believe that I don't think anybody wants to believe that I love Kim. I adore her. I wouldn't have done the movie without her. Didn't and wouldn't. Yeah, so Sarah Jessica Parker is usually giving like nice girl answers, while Kim Cattrall was always giving kind of like real tea and just being like, nah, I don't like her. I don't like anyone I work with and stuff. And it all kind of came to a head when Kim Cattrall's brother died, right? And she posted about it on Instagram. And Sarah Jessica Parker posts, oh my God, I'm so sorry for your loss. And then that might have been the snapping moment for Kim Cattrall, because Kim Cattrall snaps on her. And mind you, this is happening on Instagram. This is a very public forum. And Kim Cattrall is just like, you know what? Don't reach out to me or my family again. I am done with your nice girl antics, like this charade that you put on for everybody. And just basically called her out as a mean girl, right? And this is where I think of that movie, like Mean Girls. Like, women have like just a nasty way of fighting that, like, you know, I guess sometimes men don't. Me as a gay man, okay, I understand.
I'm going to encourage you to stop. Right.
I'm just saying, I get it, because I think there's like more, I don't know. Girl fights tend to be, from what I used to see in college, a lot more mind games than actual physical fighting. And like me as a gay guy, I also used to play those mind games too when fighting with other guys who would resort to brute strength. I could do both. I'm just saying.
Yes.
So it was rumored that in 2016, the script for Sex and the City 3 was approved. However, Sarah Jessica Parker in 2017 says, no, this is her quote. We had this beautiful, funny, heartbreaking, joyful, very relatable script and story. It's not just disappointing that we don't get to tell the story and have the experience, but more so for the audience that has been so vocal in wanting another movie. That's what Sarah Jessica Parker says in 2017. Kim Cattrall in 2018 kind of wants to correct the record, and she says the reason it's leaked that like the reasons that she didn't want to go forward with the Sex and the City 3 is because she didn't like the script that involved a big dying and Brady sexting her. Now, keep in mind, Brady was like, 15 at the time, right? So it would have been having Kim Cattrall's character like having sexual messages with like a minor. Again, keep in mind, like, we've seen Samantha so hypersexualized. Like, obviously, Kim Cattrall's going to be like, enough is enough. Now I'm going to be flirting with a minor.
Exactly. I think she was like, you know what? I'm done degrading myself for your character. Like, I can't be the only 50-year-old woman here having sex all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and, you know, she then goes on record and saying, nah, she's just done with Samantha as a character, wants to move on with her career. You know, in quotations, I won't put that, like, you know, whatever we consider a career nowadays. Like, has she been on Dancing with the Stars yet? I feel like that's going to be one of her career moves. And finally, it was in 2020, December, we get the news that they're going to proceed with a Sex and the City show without Samantha. And as the year progresses, we learn little details such as the renaming of the show. It's now called And Just Like That. And I think the biggest FU to the original run of the show is that Patricia Field, who was the original costume designer for the show, and keep in mind, we had a lot of great wardrobes in the original one, is not associated with this show. And you know what, guys? It shows.
Yep.
It shows.
1000%.
Crazy. Isn't it crazy how it shows? Wow. Thank you so much for setting that up. So are we Team Kim or are we Team SJP?
I'm Team Kim because I really hope that she's holding out enough. I hope that she shows up for the final episode of this series.
I don't think so.
I hope that they threw her like a shit ton of money just for her to come in for like 5 minutes saying like, hello girls. And that's it. Like, I hope that she got her 7-figure salary just for that.
SJP wasn't even on the set for her saying
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
that's exactly. And it's just like, but you know what? She got her money.
Yeah.
And she got
And
to
the fans
not really
got what they
be,
want.
Yeah, and she had to be associated with this kind of, I feel like Trainwreck is a little bit harsh way of calling this show, but this show is very, I think, a little problematic in my opinion.
Oh yeah, just a little. I think
I say a little.
I think I'm Team Kim just because she was the only one that realized, like kind of leave a good thing alone.
Yeah.
Them constantly going back to Sex and the City is just ruining the reputation of the original show more and more. Every time they
now
revisit
they're ruining
it.
their own reputations as well.
That too, yeah.
I'm totally Team Kim. I was a little on the fence, but after seeing what they're doing,
Yeah.
1000% Team Kim.
So the new And Just Like That takes the show and the movies into account, right? So it's just kind of picking up where the last movie kind of left off.
It like plays the music from the movie in the
It
show.
does?
It
it?
doesn't even
Oh, I
play the
didn't-
theme song.
Oh, look at that. Wow. Yeah, no theme song. It's just all of these shows now don't have time for theme songs. They just like to put the title up and that's it. That's what's cool these days.
Yeah, I wish I had used a better font.
I was just about to say, and it's like the worst title card every time it pops up. I'm like,
Yeah,
ew.
it's just like no design whatsoever. It looks like it looks like someone did it on like Photoshop. Not even on Word.
Yeah, not even.
You know?
Not even.
Yeah.
They use paint.
Yeah.
Shit, yeah. But it's interesting because the moment the show starts, what do they address? That Samantha's not there.
Yeah.
They waste no time.
I mean,
getting
I
into it.
appreciated that, but then as the episodes went on and they're constantly mentioning her, I'm like, all right, like we don't need to talk about it all the time. I like that they talked about her first thing, got it out of the way in the first episode. That was fine for me. But then that she kept being brought up over and over again. I was like leave this bitch alone.
You don't think it was kind of shady the way they did it though?
I thought it was shady. Yeah, I thought that they were kind of making Carrie a victim of Samantha's games.
Yeah.
And it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense why she would just suddenly stop talking to them.
Oh yeah, I mean the week this show came out, the TikToks I was seeing about people just be flipping out saying it's just like this is not Samantha. Like Samantha would just
she would never do that.
She would not do this.
She's not that close-minded.
No.
Right.
Like that's the thing that like she's the one person who would never judge any of the girls no matter what they were fucking doing, whether it was cheating or just like being an awful person. She was never judgmental.
Well,
so
not
like
just that.
why
I
would she
think-
care about that?
Well, it was more so about the fact that like the reason they broke up though was because
Carrie fired her as
a publicist, right? And it's just like I just don't think Samantha was established enough that like I don't think Carrie would be who's reading columnists anymore or books even. You know what I mean?
And that's
So it's just
exactly
like,
what she said. Like I don't like no one's reading books.
I feel like
so
Samantha
didn't
would have
read
dropped
that.
her first.
Ridiculous.
Wait, what'd you say, Rolando? I didn't hear that.
That I think Samantha would have dropped her first
Yeah.
as
You
like
would have advised Carrie to like you should drop me. I should no longer be your publicist. This is not
because
anymore.
Samantha was always just that bitch who was always there for her girls.
Yeah.
Before and the show kind of like besmirched her honor by saying, "Oh, she was just in it for the money." I guess it's just like no, Samantha most certainly was not.
Yeah. Now after 25 years, no, not your friend anymore.
And then they just don't let it go. She's like, I already lost Samantha. I'm not going to lose another friend. It's like, oh my God. If I was Kim Cattrall, I'd be pissed.
Seriously. We're like, stop fucking talking about me.
Because now you're ruining my character's reputation, you know?
I don't know. Kim Cattrall might be having the last laugh, but if she's not associated, if she doesn't show up in the final episode, the final minute of the final episode of this season, she's having the last laugh by saying, she's like, well, I had nothing to do with this, guys.
Yeah.
And now you know why.
Well, it's interesting because without Samantha, you know, you get the other three and you lose a really big dynamic. You know, practically everyone's favorite character too. And now we're just kind of left with, you know, women in their mid-50s dealing with children and their relationships, you know, like they're all kind of dealing with the same stuff. And interestingly enough, I told you guys this last time that the age that they are for And Just Like That is the same age that the Golden Girls were at when the Golden Girls started in 1985.
Yes, I have seen that on Instagram and stuff. And,
Yeah.
You know, I also saw on TikTok that someone was just wondering, just like, do they really look that different, or is it just that we have modern hairstyles nowadays?
Well, so, you know, back in the day, turning 40, like I said, for Betty Davis, it was a death sentence for her, right? So I think women knew that once they reached a certain age, that was it. Now they're mothers, or they're even fucking grandmothers, and they just embraced it.
Not J-Lo.
But nowadays, women are actively being like, well, no, I'm not going to now dress my age in quotation marks. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? I'm not going to stop, you know, doing what I'm doing. So we've approached age differently. And I think because of that, women look younger longer.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the nicer things, that it's like, oh, wow, look at how women in their 50s, you know, dress themselves now as opposed to how women in their 50s dress themselves 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I
huge
think
difference.
Interesting. So you're looking at this off from straight up physical. What I was kind of looking forward to was seeing women of a certain age kind of behaving like not what we expect women of a certain age to behave, right? Like that's what I was kind of looking forward to And Just Like That. Seeing women of a certain age just behaving, and not badly, but like not as society deems as appropriate, which is what we originally got in Sex and the City, right? And I think, again, kind of giving that aspirationalness of the original thing, because I think no matter what, society is still making us constantly afraid of getting older.
Well, yeah, that's why I think the way that the physical aspect of it is actually really interesting, just because of the way that people look at women and people look at women of a certain age. And I guess I just am happy that it's more sexually acceptable for people to just like to combat that and to not even think about their age as a thing in the way they physically represent themselves. But it's interesting because as much as they physically represent themselves, the way that they actually represent themselves emotionally and mentally, I feel like is actually pretty oddly
Regressive?
Conservative, but trying really hard to be progressive.
Right.
That makes sense.
I use the word regressive just because the one who I think regressed the most was Miranda.
So, okay, so
I guess we should get into like what the plot is about.
yeah, I think we should.
Yeah, so And Just Like That takes place after Sex and the City 2. And we just shove ourselves back into the lives of all these women. But the biggest change that has happened is by the end of the first episode, spoiler guys, Mr. Big dies because of a Peloton accident. And real quick, Eddie, do you think Carrie could have saved Mr. Big?
Yes. But so make some effort.
Yeah, right?
There was this weird like need to hold him, and her falling into the shower too.
Yeah. Yeah.
She basically could have put him in recovery, like laid him out, minister CPR,
Give him his nitroglycerin
medication.
pills? Yeah.
As she's talking to the 911 operator.
Yeah, no, there's a lot.
You know, it was. I felt like if they were, because there was no reason for him to. If it was gonna be that way, I don't think there was no reason for him to be alive.
Yeah.
For him to be found alive. You know, I would have thought that it would have had the same power that it was. It could have been much stronger, like it was for for when Buffy found her mother dead.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, finding your dead body.
And, and then you in that moment of like you think they're alive and they're just kidding or something, or stop playing, or but I felt like you have seconds, do something.
Yeah. So
why are you getting your shoes wet, damn it?
So Tina, do you agree? Do you think that Carrie could have done something for Mr. Big?
Absolutely. When she walks into the bathroom and he's there like slumped against the wall and they look at each other, like I'm just like, what are you doing? If I walked into the bathroom and I saw my husband like that, I would have been like, hello? What's wrong? Like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? Oh my God, you're not talking back. I'm calling 911. Like, why are you just looking at him? Like, do something.
It was mind-boggling. So that is the end of the first episode. Mr. Big dies, and now we're seeing kind of Carrie, for the rest of the series, kind of picking up the pieces.
Can we talk about what killed him, though?
Oh, that's right. Well, Peloton.
Yeah. The internet broke with that one.
Peloton, not only the internet, but also Peloton's stock price crashed as a result of this episode.
Supposedly,
that decision on them backfired.
That show Billions.
Yes, I was just about to say, and then a character on Billions died.
Peloton's Peloton's character is getting just assassinated. And then the fucked up part is, so they made a commercial in 24 hours, or like in the span of a weekend, to combat the bad PR. Mm-hmm. And it was attached with Chris Knopf, and then all those allegations of Chris Knopf came out like a week later. So Peloton immediately pulled that commercial.
I know.
So it was bad times for Peloton. So if you want to invest in some stock, I think right now it's probably in the shitter to the point where it's just like, now's the time, guys. Now's the time. Warning, guys, do not take my financial advice. We should have those cool buttons that this podcast has.
Warning, yes.
Carrie is now also a podcaster. She is a host of like this woke podcast that a little tries too hard.
Co-host.
She's a co-host. Yeah, she is one of three. It should be only one of two, to be quite honest, because that one guy does absolutely nothing. He's so. I mean, not
he's just there to be another POC.
He's so grimy.
Yes.
It's just the grimiest person I think I've ever seen on screen. It's just nasty. And they're trying to make no, but like,
I like
his
that
character,
guy.
He's supposed to have, but he's also supposed to be like showing like the cis male point of view. Yes. But like, who's he banging?
Exactly.
Who is that? No one's gonna touch him with a 10-foot pole.
I mean, I will say Bobby Lee is pretty prolific and has a pretty strong fan base and
who the hell's Bobby Lee?
That's who he is.
Who? I don't know who that is.
He's kind of huge.
In what circle?
I mean, I know him, so he's definitely like famous.
I feel like you know like obscure stuff though.
I guess so. I don't know, but I like him, and I like Che, but I felt like their show is definitely not accurate as to how a show of two people like that would be talking. They're not going to spend all their fucking time talking about their agenter fucking identities
all the time,
or their political, ideals. It's just like it rules their fucking lives.
Every episode felt like they were introducing the show. Every time that we cut to them, it's just like they're like introducing the show yet again. Yeah. What else is going on in the ladies' lives? So Carrie is now a widow. Miranda is a alcoholic and doesn't listen to podcasts, guys. This is what drives me crazy because everything I've seen about Miranda, she loves her phone. Apparently there was an episode of her where she was like so sad that she was away from like phone reception. She couldn't check her emails. You're telling me that this woman doesn't listen to podcasts? Mm-hmm. No, lies. Those are lies. And also I feel like and she has like microaggressions against this black professor, which I just don't think was in character for Miranda.
Nope. 1000%. She's the last character that would do that.
Yeah.
Charlotte apparently is more woke than Miranda. Mm-hmm.
Ridiculous. Charlotte, like her main storyline is that she has a daughter who is possibly considering trans, or at least is non-binary. Yeah. And this is all new to Charlotte, who, as we mentioned, she's kind of like the stuck-up one. And those are the three. That's it. Those are the three main characters.
Well, they have a bunch of new characters that they're trying to make. I don't know if main characters, but at least supporting characters where we see them every single episode.
Someone's got to replace Samantha.
Someone's got to replace Samantha. So
no. So this is my biggest thing. No one has to replace Samantha. Samantha is irreplaceable. There does not need to be a fourth seat every time these women go out to eat filled. I don't need to see Stanford there. I do not need to see Anthony there. That would never happen. And then now all of a sudden Carrie's realtor is coming to lunch with these women. Like, you don't have to do this. Stop.
I agree with you.
This.
However, her realtor, I think, I like Shay in theory, but Cena is the one who I think has stolen the show, and I'm ready to say is just like, if you just gave me a show with just Cena and maybe her friendship with Shay, and this was gonna be the show, I'd be like, yeah, give me that show, because Cena is so sexy for a woman her age.
She is the best fashion on that show.
Easily the best fashion, and she just exudes like a sexiness that like I think all the three main characters are trying so hard to kind of exude. She's just so flawless in this, like, and just oozing out of her.
Yeah.
I feel like she's all the three friends of color of all the main girls. Like, what's her name?
The professor?
Bexley, the woman, the other mom, and Charlotte's
Charlotte's friend.
Yes, and then
LTW?
Miranda's professor. Sorry, what did you say, Rolando?
LTW, I think that was her nickname.
Yes, LTW. So fucking stupid. Like, who talks about someone that you personally know like that? Who knows someone that? That's just fucking stupid. This show has the worst writing I've ever heard in a show.
We can't blame Darren Criss on that. No. Not Darren Criss. Darren Star.
No, Darren Criss. He's like, what did I do?
Darren Criss. But like, Seema is great. Dr. Nia Wallace, Miranda's professor. They're all great characters. I would watch shows about all three of those characters separate from this. You do not need to put them into this world, because that's not what we're here for. We're not here to learn about these three new characters. I'm not here to watch that. I'm here to pick back up with Miranda, Charlotte, and Carrie. And that's where this show fails, is they're putting way too much else into this world, and we don't give a shit about that. I don't care to know about anybody new. I don't give a fuck if this professor can't get pregnant. Oh, well, I don't give a shit. I don't know you.
Oh, yeah. I feel like
who are you?
They started crossing a line once they started giving me just scenes with them. And I was just like, what? Why am I getting her story? Like, this came out of nowhere.
Yes. Like, when all of a sudden they showed the professor's husband, and he was talking on the phone, I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? And then you saw that he's talking to her. I'm like, I don't care what you guys are talking about.
Look, I am aware of why the creators tries to introduce these new characters, specifically also people of color.
Yes,
but it does feel a little bit like
forced,
like service.
Yes,
like, you know what I mean. Like it feels very much like they're checking out those boxes.
Yes,
specifically, so I like Shay as a character in theory, but Shay is crossing off so many boxes with her monologuing and stuff that it just feels like a caricature.
Oh yeah. Like, she's on stage and people are laughing, and I'm like, but she's not funny.
Yeah,
she's
just no jokes.
She's just trying to empower people.
Bookings for all these different events. Like, she gets a Netflix show. She gets a Netflix comedy special where everybody in the audience stands the entire time, by the way.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
That. She gets a spot in a parade or a, what do you call it? A protest, whatever it is. It's just like, is she the only non-binary person in New York that she's just they are constantly speaking everywhere that they go, you know? Like, it's the only non-binary person that these companies are hiring. And she's
supposed to be hilarious, right? Like, Miranda's just dying of laughter anytime she either is watching her perform or listening. But literally, she's not saying any jokes. She's just there for people to go, woo!
Right,
woo!
right.
You know, like representation and all this stuff. Because it's also like, that's, you know, like all POCs want is just to hear things for us to go, woo! You know, it's just
it's like a couple years ago, this show got flack. Like, a lot of shows in the past got flack. Like, how come there were no people of color in this show?
Absolutely.
Because this show took place in New York City, the most diverse city in the world. That's not true. The women did date black men. They did date Hispanic men.
Wait, did she? I actually,
this is the world that
I don't think I ever saw
in.
an episode where it was always white, the episodes that I watched.
I mean, a good majority of them were, but it wasn't like they didn't. But so
they're trying to make up for that by putting Carrie in a podcast with an Asian person and a non-binary person and a disabled person that also works there. Plus, Charlotte's daughter is going through her own transition. Plus, each woman is going to have a friend of color. It's just like, it's too much. And we don't need all these storylines.
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit much because these are the same girls who didn't accept bisexuality not that long ago, and now all of a sudden Carrie's going to a Diwali dinner. I just don't know if I buy that life for her. I mean, I'm not like necessarily against her having other friends, but I also just don't think she'd be that woke in her life.
Well,
and the things that I liked about Carrie was that she was a really flawed person who was really embarrassing, but all of a sudden she's like this super woke, like composed person. I just don't fucking buy it. I actually kind of would have liked it if they were more resistant to change because, and this is before you, I do want to hear your rebuttal, Rolando, but this is also kind of like my overall theory about this show. And one of the things that I've brought up a lot on this show when it comes to reviving TV shows is that I believe people don't like change in media, but change is a very necessary part of life, right? You have to change. Change is healthy and change is necessary. But people hate change. People are scared of change in their own lives, but even more so in media, right? We just don't like it. What we want to see is what we're used to. Don't change it up. And they are changing things up. And these characters are changing. A big one is what's happening to Miranda. This is not the Miranda we know, but we all know what happened in Cynthia Nixon's own life. And we know that this is what they were trying to make it more realistic to who Cynthia Nixon is. So it's not incredibly unlikely that this would happen, it's not the Miranda that we know. So it's interesting because this whole show, me watching it, has made me think about our relationship with change, because they are trying to change it so much that it's no longer the show that we recognize or that we were looking forward to seeing, if we were even looking forward to it.
When I saw the first episode, I was like, okay, this is good. I like this. This is very much like what I watched before. After that, it changed a little bit, but then by the fourth episode, I was like, I really dislike this.
I agree with that. Like by the fourth episode, for sure, is kind of when the show's trying to be not Sex and the City anymore.
Yes, once you realize what they're doing, it's like, this is not likable. None of this is likable, and I don't know if it's because things are changing. Like, we get that these characters are growing and things are changing. It's just, for me, it just feels like they're just trying too hard and it's not believable.
Yeah. Where's the line get drawn between like changing it so much to actually like staying true to who these characters are? Because, things happen in the movie, but it was something that felt organic. None of this has really felt, some of it feels somewhat organic, but a lot of it hasn't.
Ooh, all right. So this is where I want to come. I'm going to counterpoint you a little bit here. So, and I'm fully, keep in mind, I'm actually not, I only really saw like the first season of Sex and the City. I'm not like the biggest fan of Sex and the City, right? So I don't have like a connection to it. But I will say this. You said that you want to see these women resistant to change. I'm okay with kind of seeing the changes these women of a certain age are going through. That is fine with me, because I think on some level we need to see some of that change, especially of this white women of this certain age. They need to kind of go through a little bit of a change to kind of get with the times a little, because like, let's be real, the word Karen is around for a reason, right? Technically speaking, like I feel like these three would be Karens. Samantha would never be a Karen, but these three all have the potential to be a Karen at least once in their life, once a week probably. You know what I mean? So I kind of like the fact that they're kind of expanding their circle a little. And I actually didn't think, for example, that like specifically Carrie going to a Diwali event isn't that far. It didn't feel outrageous to me, because I think the reason you needed Big to die was to otherwise we'd be stuck with the same story, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's either she has to get a divorce and then we're watching The Divorce on HBO again, or he dies and we have to see Carrie kind of pick up the pieces. That's okay with me.
Yeah.
Her friendship with Seema developing, that felt organic. It's when we're really focusing on these other tertiary characters, right? Where I'm starting to be like, I don't know if we need this one. Specifically, for example, the professor. I actually like the professor's character. I just don't know what she's doing with this series because she feels so outside of this series that she feels like easily like checking a box. I'm going to make that argument about Shay also because in theory it is someone who is organic to the storyline, right? Like, you know, Carrie has a podcast now and we have this really woke caricature. However, inserting her organically into Miranda's storyline is fine. I just think it just kind of, I don't know. It's kind of, I wasn't a fan of the way they handled that, to be quite honest, because it kind of made Shay a little predatory, in my opinion. And I think the other thing is just like it made me hate Carrie because Carrie, this moment, she just caught her friend getting finger banged on the kitchen counter, and what does she do? She turns this into a moment about her. Oh my God, I peed my bed because of you. I'm just like, yo, girl, your best friend here is getting finger fucked. All right, and you have nothing else to say except the fact that you pissed yourself on the bed. Like, how about okay? We should talk. Exactly. You're married.
Like,
what's going on?
Happening? Like, you let me pee myself. Like,
so yeah, like she was so mad, but it was about the wrong reasons.
Yeah,
that's very Carrie.
You know, that's the thing. I think this show was making me. I'm liking all the other characters. I'm hating Carrie so much because she's always finding ways to make things about herself.
That's Carrie.
I know, but like, here's the thing. It's just like this is where she should have grown up a little. Like you would think the death of her husband would make her see these errors in her way, but like, nah, they just made them like worse.
But I think that's it. Grief does that to you.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know.
It magnifies that sense of. You're so sensitive of these external things, too, and at the same time, everything can be like, I'm in pain, I'm sad, you know, I just lost the love of my life, you know, I don't care about your problems because they don't seem to be as big as what you think you are because. Talk to me when you lose someone that you really care about and that you really love.
But that just feels like, well, who wants to be with a friend like that? Who's always going to one-up you? It's just like, I'm going through this in my life. That's true. My husband died. Just like, oh, all right.
I know, like, cool. Okay, you win, I guess.
Yeah, like, not only did her husband die, but she has to get hip surgery and all her friends are, like, at her bedside 24/7. I understand. Her husband died, but it's just like, all right, but like, you're also rich.
Both of these women have children. You know what I mean? Yes, they're older children, but they have, like, actual lives and other people that they have to care about. And now they're stopping all of that to come over here and babysit you for no reason. Like, you're not even sleeping. You're in your own world. You're in a daze. What am I here for? Like, you don't want my help. You're yelling at me when I come to help you.
Yeah. And I feel like Carrie was so mean in the first couple of episodes to Charlotte. Yeah. Like, it made me like, I was so mad at Carrie. I'm just like, yo, Charlotte can be in her feelings. Like this, they all know, obviously Carrie knows Mr. Big in a very intimate way that they never will. But they knew him. They know their history. They've been around just as long. They've been there for the ups and the downs, all right? Mr. Big dying hurts them just as much as it hurts her.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and it's kind of so selfish of her to, like, not want Charlotte around because, like, oh, my God, all you do is cry. It's like, yeah, it's her grief. It manifests in her way. Man, I was getting so mad at Carrie throughout this whole watch of this series. Yeah. And that's when I decided. And every time Seema was around, I really would get hooked when Seema would come around because I'm just like, finally, like a character.
She brought out a better side of Carrie where Carrie was able to just not care anymore. She did start smoking again, but you know, she was able to find happiness and outside of her girls, which is fine.
Yeah, and Seema's the only one who called her out for being self-centered. Mm-hmm. Where she's like, hey, we all say shit sometimes and we don't realize how the other people affect it. Like, for instance, you did that to me the other day, so we good?
It's true. And God, all it takes is that one for Carrie to like realize, like, oh my God.
That's it. All it takes is one person to be like, you're right. Let's have some sushi now.
Yeah.
You're my friend.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
And then all these irrational decisions that Carrie was also making in the process of grief. Again, her friends are telling her, like, really? You might want to just stop and breathe. And she's like, nah, I'm going to fucking sell my place. I'm going to buy this apartment. Are you sure? You have time. You don't have to do this now. I bought it already.
Yeah. No, she's
It's like
impulsive. Yeah.
It's
I
that-
already messaged Natasha, so I'm talking about it even though I'm already doing it, you know?
It's that TikTok of, girl, don't do it. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm only thinking about it. I'm not going to do it. I did it. You know, that's Carrie. That is Carrie right there. She let Mr. Big die, and then she's making all these impulsive decisions with her money.
Die. Oh, that's what you
Oh,
guys were
Nicole,
saying,
you
she
were.
let him
What
die.
did you think? Do you think that she let him die?
Oh, when they were just staring at each other for
Yeah.
like a while.
That's just I mean, she ran up and she was just hugging him. It's just like, you have time. He's literally. We see him breathing. It's not like he was just
what is
not
hugging him
acting.
going to do?
Yeah. I guess my my defense is that sometimes when you have something like that happen, the shock of it, not knowing what to do and kind of like how to even handle it is pretty real.
I don't know. He was on nitroglycerides because I just feel like usually your partner is aware when you have a heart condition. Nitroglycerides are the first thing you run to.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I can't say that if something were to happen, I would immediately be like, what I have to do is this and go do it. You know, it might take me a second to process it.
Oh,
So,
you need to
but
like brush up on your
I'm
partner
more of a
skills.
Carrie, so that's why.
I'll tell you this much: that would not have happened to Miranda or Samantha. Maybe Charlotte. Charlotte might be the only one I could see like maybe having a little bit of a panic attack and like not doing the right. But she would at least call 911.
I don't know. I feel like Charlotte's motherly instincts will go on
Maybe.
overdrive.
I think you're right. Yeah,
I just seen this in a variety of different women in my life who are just like you think that they're one way, but when the crisis comes, especially somebody they care about, they just become like terminators of the situation. They're like, do this, do this, do this, do this. I got this. Don't worry about this. You know, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, you're right. I can see that for Charlotte too. Yeah, it's just Carrie. Carrie only wanted him to die for the drama.
That was so dramatic. The shower was going. The shoes were ruined.
The shoes. They did the
shoes.
close-up of the
I was
shoes.
just like, take the shoes.
Wait, were those shoes in the first movie? Were they important from like the first movie?
They were the wedding shoes.
I know.
Yeah.
I assume that we see them from the first movie. I never saw the first movie. How'd you guys feel about Samantha just sending flowers? Do you think that that's something Samantha would have done, or would she have come to the
She would have
funeral?
come.
Yeah,
She would have come.
I
1,000%.
agree. I think she would have gone to the funeral. I don't think she would have just sent flowers.
Yeah, no.
Also, why did did anyone think that it was a little? Maybe this was just me thinking when my father died, and like, you know, you're like in your own headspace, but like where I was gonna have the wake is not something that I put that much thought into, right? Like she had to have that white gallery space, and she had to put on a production
Yes.
for her husband's funeral. It just felt, I don't know.
And,
Again,
like, none
all
of
eyes
it
on me,
felt
me,
like
me.
Him. Like the first
Yeah.
place that she went to felt like Mr. Big.
Yeah.
I agree.
He
Yeah.
was an old
Yeah.
soul. Like, yes, this old place that's very nice actually does look like Mr. Big.
Which is what her gay friend said that, right? Like, it's just like, oh, she's still putting on this show for us. I'm just like, okay, good. So you guys see this. That she's always putting it on for you guys. And it's just like, someone's not going to help her and say, stop. Just stop.
Yeah. Put it out.
Well, they're too busy enjoying the show.
I guess.
What of this worked for you and what didn't work for you at all?
Let's go with the fan first.
I don't know that a lot of it did work for me. I really dislike this show. I don't think I think the first episode worked for me, and that's it. I don't like the fashion. I think they're just trying too hard to please too many people, and they can't. Like, there's just way too many storylines going. They want us to focus on so much, and they're just taking away from the core of the show. It's like if we brought back Friends, but we're going to see what's happening with the Geller's parents or Gunther.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
like all these other side characters are like their children. Like, I don't give a shit about their children. That's not why I watched it. I watched it for them. And now you're showing me everything but them.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. I guess for me, I liked the characters, but I didn't like them in the show, at least the new characters. I like Carrie, And like I said, I like SJP. I mean, I don't doubt that she's a mean girl, and I am Team Kim. But I did enjoy these new characters. I just didn't like them in the context of the show, and I didn't like how they kind of felt like how people think people like me talk. Because I look at Che and I'm like, oh, that's like me. You know, like that's kind of my energy and all this stuff. But then it's also like, but I don't fucking talk like that 24/7.
Yeah.
Like I
Can
don't
you get a
completely
haircut
think
like her?
that. I don't know if I would. That's the thing. She's a little more butchy. I'm actually trying to step into the more androgynous zone.
I don't know. I think that haircut was so chic.
It was
I thought that
good, but it's very butch.
Yeah.
And it's just I'm trying to be less butch these days.
It's so weird. I didn't
androgynous.
I didn't read that haircut as butch because it read very I thought it read very androgynous. Like it could I could see that working on both a guy or a woman.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree, but also butches tend to, and I can say this because I have identified as a butch lesbian, that we have haircuts that men can pull off and women can pull off. So that doesn't necessarily make it androgynous. Like there's a kind of a fine line. If you look at a butch lesbian, you can tell she's a butch lesbian, but if you look at an androgynous lesbian, you can't tell if it's a guy or a girl. And that's the point.
I feel like
You get the difference?
Woke.
You get the difference?
Woke alert.
That's true.
Woke alert. We need that for the podcast.
That was pretty good. But like, I don't know. And I don't know how much I buy her with Miranda. I think that it's unethical for a professor to be hanging out with a student like that, especially one as embarrassing as Miranda.
Oh,
And,
I don't know. I've hung out with my professors before. We've hung out with
I've seen
professors
that.
before. What are you talking about?
We drunk with
It's
your
not-
professors.
It's
Well,
different.
like,
It's different.
Would you tell your professor if you were a woman that you got your period?
No,
Like, they becoming
Your
friends.
professor to tell
Yeah, yeah.
you that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like
I
no,
don't
like
think I
they're
would delve
becoming
into-
friends. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not like a professor-student relationship. That, like, of
They're
course,
like
we've
going
gone out to
for coffee or
Yeah.
dinner, even or lunch, whatever. They're taking
Yeah,
time out of school to hang out with each other.
Yeah, that's
That's
like
Telling her deepest, darkest secrets.
that's like, you know, like there's a term for that. I think that's like a violation of ethics or something too, because then that's like your personal friend, so you might do things differently and treat them differently, and that's just wrong.
Okay. All right, fine. You got me there. Play devil's advocate. Sometimes you get burned. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go. And the kids, I actually want to see more of these young people, or at least know more of their story. And they had an
Oh,
opportunity
do
to say, okay, maybe we need more people in the show. Why not show us a little bit of Lily's perspective or Rock's perspective instead of just the parents? Maybe Brady, even though they're just making him to a fuckboy, and that's whatever.
No, I don't need. I don't
Unrealistic
need Brady.
fuckboy, but-
No. it's-
Yeah, like, you're telling me that Ginger is going to be getting all that punani? No way.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
that girl is gorgeous.
I can't tell.
Way too
She's
gorgeous
so
to be
beautiful.
with him. But that happens a lot.
that happens quite a lot. You know, so.
Way too much. But I also
But-
don't buy that Miranda and Steve just like completely give up on their marriage and parenting their child. That this girl just lives with them and they just let him fuck her
And
in
then
the
she's
next
stepping
room
on
and they
condoms.
hear it. Like it just that's crazy that these two characters would allow that.
Yeah, or then I found it weird, right? When she just flips out about him smoking weed. I'm just like, well, you're letting him like
Yes,
bang.
exactly. Well, I think she did like hit her breaking point in that moment and flipped out because she held so much in for so long. But then for the next episode to show that he's right back to doing the same bullshit.
Right.
Like it's like, okay, so what good did that do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's actually the truest of the sitcom type of characters, right? Where they all revert back to status quo at the end of each episode. So
Yeah,
he's
there was an episode. I forget which one it was, but I think they're playing tennis or something, and it cuts to Eye of the Tiger playing, and it turns into like this whole comedic sequence. And it was at that very moment that I was like, "That's right. This show is being written by baby boomers who are trying their utmost to be relevant, and yet they're choosing Eye of the Tiger as a comedic thing, something that has been so overused and so 25 years ago that it just showed its age, it showed the writer's age, and it immediately dated
much
itself.
of this shows the right
Yeah, and it was
Nicole,
just like in that little gesture that it all came like full circle for me.
I'm so disappointed in you because you had a moment right now where you could just say, and just like that, I realized. But you did it.
Let's put it back. And just like that, I realized, and then we can insert it. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing too. I think, you know, they said that once upon a time, apparently they're like, oh, we're going to leave the show and leave it on a bang and stuff. And then they fucking ruined it. And then they ruined it again and they ruined it even more. And it's like it's like that episode where Carrie desperately wants to be cool, but then she doesn't realize like how she's coming off. That's what the show is.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much, you know,
and
why.
all they do is talk about how old they are. And it's like,
Yeah.
Oh my God, shut up.
Didn't the Golden Girls too?
Golden Girls didn't always talk about how old they were, no.
Then literally just the handful of episodes I've seen where they're always referencing their age.
I mean, but you can reference your age without talking about how old
I see what you mean. Like yeah, right. I mean, Golden Girls uses it for comic relief.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
where they're here to
This is
just
not the
literally just
same.
complain about being old, which is the opposite of what I would want this show to do, right? Where it should be showing it's just like, yeah, who cares? Like,
Yeah.
we're fucking fabulous.
They all arrived to Big's funeral, and Harry and Charlotte greet Miranda and Steve. And Harry says to Steve, like, Steve, you're looking tired. And he says, I have a hearing aid. Like, why? Why are you bringing that up? Like, oh, I'm miserable. I have a hearing aid. Like, I'm not mentioning that to anybody if that's my issue. Like, yes, we're at our friend's funeral, and I can't hear in my left ear anymore. Like,
Oh,
that's-
well, I mean, we know someone like that who is constantly referring to their hearing aids. So, like, you know, and maybe that is just true of men of a certain age.
maybe.
Oh, really? That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Don't be losing fans.
I
Don't be losing fans.
No shade if you're
Don't
listening.
get canceled.
That's my bad. It's not theirs.
Do you guys think there's going to be a second season?
Yes.
I unfortunately do.
Yeah, I thought I heard that it was renewed, but I'm looking it up. I don't think it's been officially renewed. I think it's just rumored to have been renewed. But I don't know. The reception from the fans, at least what I've seen on TikTok and Twitter, right? And I feel like that's how we know how the audience is thinking,
Yes.
obviously. Hasn't been very warm to this show.
Yes, that's what I was
So-
wondering. What I see is people do not like this.
Yeah.
And I was hoping I wasn't being biased in my view.
No, a lot of people do not like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, there's a lot of characters that are getting hate. One of them is Che. She's actually, a lot of people have called her one of the worst characters on television.
Yeah.
You know,
I
which
don't know about that.
I don't know if I think about.
excessive,
Yeah, that's
but-
a bit much for me.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, why? I don't know. I wonder why people are particularly against her. Maybe it's
Well,
because
I
they
think-
toned her into such a caricature. And she's
No,
just
yeah,
not
that's what I'm going to
realistic.
say. It's just like, I think it's because she's a caricature. Like,
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
not really like a fully realized character. Like, I actually would be okay with Shay if they just made her like having a podcast and she's just a fuckboy persona. That's fine with me. Like, we don't need to have her be so, like, she's so ready to just explain to you what woke is.
Yes.
And that what drives me crazy about her. Like, she's allowed to be who she is and not have to constantly tell me like what is proper, you know what I mean? Like, not to be like she's, you know,
Seriously.
not to be the PC principal.
She's
South Park, you know what I
almost
mean?
like a gatekeeper for the LGBT
Right.
community, and I fucking hate that shit.
Yeah.
There
know?
you go.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, because in theory, again, I say this, in theory, this character should work. In theory, her sexual chemistry with Miranda makes sense, right? Like, in theory, like that scene where she's like giving her the shotgun is supposed to be titillating, right? But when she's giving you but that's followed up after her kind of cringy stand-up comedy, right? So it's just like, you have to deal with like that.
Yeah.
I'm just, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just like, I don't like Shay, and I think Shay has the possibility of being redeemed if they give a second season and they give it to like more competent writers.
Yeah, who actually understand the people that they're trying to include.
Yeah, I
in
mean,
the show.
I don't know what the writing staff is made up of, but to
Yeah.
your point, I don't disagree with you, Nicole. I do
I
think it's like older.
I think the writers actually have their own podcast. where they explain themselves after every
Explain the
episode.
decisions.
Oh God.
I'm not 100% sure about this, but I'm pretty sure that's a real thing.
It could be, yeah. HBO has been doing that a lot, like putting,
Mm-hmm.
making podcasts of their shows and stuff. So it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I guess the
but-
big question that we have to ask to end to all of this is
No, don't end this yet. We have to talk about one of the most funniest things I've seen on this show.
Oh, what?
Is it speaks to Sarah Jessica Parker's comedic abilities, especially physical comedy. The vomiting scene after her first date since Mr. Big died, where she is coming out laughing with this guy she just met, and they seem to have had a great first date, and he's laughing. They're laughing so hard that the guy ends up vomiting.
Oh,
As
God.
they're walking out in front of the restaurant, and then you see, she sees this, and then she begins to vomit, and then he begins to vomit even more watching her vomit. I thought that was amazing. Absolutely hysterical.
She's a great
loved it.
physical comedian.
Yeah,
She's great with physical comedy.
I
Yeah.
would. I agree, and
And
it's so
that
funny.
felt like Sex in the City. Like when, I mean, of course she's on a date with the person, things go wrong, and it's funny. That was really funny to watch.
Yeah. Eddie, that's so funny. Oh well, for me, one of the funniest moments came when like she was going to the restroom and then she runs into Mr. Big's ex.
Yes.
That's another like she
Yeah.
burns her hands. That's that was actually a good episode. So
Yeah.
like I said,
That one
the
wasn't
show.
bad.
I don't think the show is a complete flop. I just think it's just like a little misdirected at times, a lot of times. But
it's a little try hard.
for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But Nicole, to your point, was this question needed? No. Was this show needed?
No,
Was it needed?
absolutely. I mean,
No.
they wanted it. They obviously are not ready to let it go. I don't think they're ever going to be ready to let it go. I think
No.
even in their 70s, we're going to know what Carrie Bradshaw's up to,
Yep.
which, sucks. I'm definitely the type of person who thinks leave the party early, leave them wanting more. And I think they might have tried to, make up for what the second movie did, even though they're never going to publicly admit that the second movie was just god awful. And they just want to be relevant, and everything that they were going for, it just was just. It
hitting the
seemed
mark.
like, missed the mark, and just kind of seemed like, kind of a desperate attempt in a weird way. I don't know.
Desperate
Again,
bad event.
I don't think it's terrible, and some of it does work for me, but some of it doesn't, and I don't know. Yeah. It was just, but overall, it was just absolutely not necessary. 100% not necessary.
No.
Okay.
We would have been fine without this.
So Tina, you agree
Oh
with
yeah.
that?
Yes, I 1000% agree.
Yeah.
This is not necessary.
Eddie, do you have anything to chime in? Do you think it was
I
necessary?
have no opinion about this. I really don't.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you guys. I don't think this was needed. I don't think this was needed. The only way I would say it was if they had just copped the money and, had Kim Cattrall come back. Because what I'm realizing as I'm watching this is just like Sex and the City was funny. Like it was a funny show. This one is a lot more dour.
Yes.
And that's not what I wanted in a Sex and the City show.
I felt like every time it started, it was sad and quiet, and it wasn't enjoyable. And then the very last thing it showed you left you with a gleam of hope that, okay, Carrie's feeling better, or the situation's looking lighter, and next week will be better. And then it just goes right back to just being like a downer, and
Yeah.
with all of them. Like they're all
Right.
going through shit that's not fun to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
not what I expected from this show. So I don't like it. If I'm watching, I don't know, what's a drama that's on TV right now?
Euphoria.
But yes,
What-
if I'm
what-
watching Euphoria, I'm expecting, some heavy shit. I'm not expecting that with this.
Or This Is Us.
Yes, This Is
There
Us,
you go.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's an apt description there. But
Although
no, yeah,
I will say
agree.
I don't think any money would have gotten Kim Cattrall back. I think she's done, and I
know.
think that
I
she
think
made her bed with
it's just
SJP.
Yeah,
Really,
she's
I don't
done
know.
with
Money
her.
talks.
I guess, but like I don't know that she seems to hate SJP.
I genuinely think that they're going to give her 7 figures just to come back for 3 seconds to be like, "Hello, girls," and that's it.
I've
Cut to
seen a
black.
lot of people say that they're thinking she might show up.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guarantee you.
last episode,
Or it's
too.
gonna. Oh, here we go. Here's how I predict it's gonna end. Samantha walks in. Oh, girls, what have you gotten yourself into? And then, then Carrie says, "It's like," and just like that, Samantha was back in our lives.
Oh my God.
And then it cuts to black. Boom, right there. I got HBO. Your ending right there. Give me that SJP money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the ending of every episode, and just like that, is terrible.
I agree.
Because just like Tina says, it like ties everything up really neat, but then what the next
It's just
episode
going
picks up is
backwards.
it just ignores all of that. It's
Yeah.
just so terrible.
Yeah.
So that was a big one, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what do you guys think? Are you Sex and the City fans? Have you seen the new show? And just like that, do you have any thoughts that you want to share with us? Please do share them with us. You can email us at remakes.rebootsrevivals@gmail.com. We're active on Instagram at Remakes Reboots Revivals, Twitter at Remakes Podcast. We're active on Facebook, facebook.com/Remakes Reboots Revivals. We're also on YouTube. And if you want to phone in and share your thoughts with us via your beautiful voice, you should call in to our hotline and maybe we might play it on the air. And that number is
862-248-2326. That's 862-248-2326.
And I think that should just about do it. Tina, if anyone wants to find you, what's some of your social media handles? Where can they could
I was going to
find
say.
you?
All my social media handles are Tina Elizabeth Photography. You'll see lots of pretty weddings and my babies.
Oh, yeah. And maybe some rants about and just like that on her
Plenty of
stories.
rants. I hate this
But yeah.
show.
Thank you. See, I'm glad we got a diehard fan's perspective because it's not just us,
Diehard fans' negative perspective.
Yes.
Hey,
I'm so sad.
Hey.
I was so sad
Aw.
all day that I was coming on this podcast to shit on one of my favorite shows of all time.
Well, no,
Aw.
not Sex in the City. It's and just like that you're shitting on, not
Yeah,
Sex
sure.
in the City.
Sure.
So.
But according to your logic, that means you're shitting on that legacy.
Yes. It is a part
This
of
is
the
true.
legacy.
Yeah, so.
And it has
Well-
been shit on.
Regardless, we thank you for coming on and shitting all over it.
Thank you.
Yes,
And,
thank you.
I love it. I love it.
And until next week,
Stay original.
And just like that, the episode was over.
Nice.